Ben here from Gravel Throat Reviews. It is Wednesday, January 29th, 2025, and I have for you today an album review from the band Glassing from Austin, Texas. The album is called The Other Side of the Mirror. Before we get started, I just want to say stick around till the end because we have some exclusive commentary from Scott Osment, the drummer of Glassing, at the very end to give you some additional insights on the record. But yeah, that being said, let's get right into it. So, Glassing is a black metal influenced experimental rock band that is comprised of Corey Brim on guitars, Justin Kaufman on bass, and Scott Osment from the band Def Club on drums. These guys have been really busy touring the States and abroad the last few years, gaining a solid fan base and brushing shoulders with bands like Chat Pile, Pelican, Cult Leader, City of Caterpillar, Betrayal of Guilt, Unsane, and more. But this new album, From the Other Side of the Mirror, sees them finally complete the process of taking apart little pieces from other music genres and putting together their own signature brand of electrifying and sometimes meditative post-black metal, shoegaze, and post-metal, as well as other genres thrown in there as well. They take some influences from bands like Deafheaven, Almond Ra, Emperor, Celeste, Godspeed You Black Emperor, and Thou, as well as random bands from the second and third waves of black metal. Yeah, so there are 10 songs on the album that span just over 40 minutes, and they have a very wide range of emotions. You can go from anxious and terrified to uplifted and confident within just moments on this album. That showcases the diversity right there. Yeah, so the first song, Anything You Want, is a European and more specifically Belgian doom sound mixed with these gorgeous clean vocals that are layered and reverbed. I'm a big fan of these moments on darker metal albums because they offer a sonic oasis from the deserts of distortion and anguished vocals. They also add another layer of emotion to the mix, making it more memorable. The more emotions that you can evoke from the listener, the more they will remember your band and they will come to your band when they crave that emotion again. So that's very important. The same dynamic is repeated on the track Nothing Touches You, where there is some ambient parts, some aggressive parts, followed by a beautiful, clean vocal that summons an ethereal and visceral longing. The third track, Defacer, however, is like a 180 turn. The blistering, profound riffage just pummels you with very little relief. There is no place to hide on this track whatsoever. Yeah, Defacer is the first album that I heard from this record. I think it was the first album they released. It goes super, super hard. Love that song rather. But on Defacer, just when these riffs start to seem more uplifting and positive, they drop you back down into this nasty, chugging refrain section that puts a nail in the coffin of this song. Love that track. And the fourth track, Solo, is just Glassing providing you with a drink of water and a pee break before a whole new section of the album starts. This is the point on the From the Other Side of the Mirror album where the storyline kind of begins. The first couple songs were just getting you ready and getting ready for the intensity and the story that's to come afterwards. From here, every track we have is just track after track of doomy, dismal atmospheres butting up against crushing walls of guitars and mid-paced drumming. There are an array of shimmering reverbs and orchestral sounding pads that wallow in the midground. I absolutely love the vocals on this album. This is Glassing showing us that they are fully capable of composing haunting, beautiful memories as well as pulverizing menace. I like how this album goes between doomy riffs and post-metal riffs with a nasty, throaty first wave black metal vocal style that cuts through the clouds of atmosphere like on the song Ritualist. I love the sci-fi sounding tremolos in between the pauses of feedback on the song As My Heart Rots. Yeah, As My Heart Rots is a fantastic cut on this album. The riffs are anxiety inducing on this track for sure. The song Circle Down starts with a much sadder and minor key set of chords that are a nice break from the angst of As My Heart Rots. In the context of this album, this kind of feels like the beginning of the overall resolution. I like the switch up from the high pitched to down to the more guttural vocal style in this section. It was really unexpected, and that just adds a lot of dynamic to the track. The next song, the Crestial Goes, once again gives you a bit of a rest with a long, airy, windswept, ambient compositions with some nostalgic chimes and some cymbal swells. There is a clean guitar lead in the background that gives the feeling of hope and resolution. At this point in the album, you already know that there is an emotion of equal and opposite intensity on the other side of these breaks, so you know something's about to come to you. But instead of giving you yet another dismal, depressive beating, they give you a very uplifting and inspirational piece of post-black metal with churning toms and a busier drumming style. There is a strong Death Heaven feel on this track with some blast beat sections with these ripping tremolos and sky-high chords. This is a spot where the journey comes to an end, and Glassing is kind enough to let you go on a high note so you don't feel too abused, kind of. I totally love this album. I love the flow of emotions. The riffs are compelling. The drums they show restraint in places, and then completely unhinged energy in other places. The vocals show a maturity that allows softer moments to reach a wider audience while not compromising grit or intensity. The vocals on this album are just stellar. They have low, high, mid, and sky high vocal inflections on this album. Super dynamic. And if I was to make one criticism of this album, it would be that with the abundance of higher register sound, there feels like there's a little bit more room for details and experimentations on the lower end. Maybe some cello, maybe some lower synths, maybe some deep baritone horns, just to round out the sound a little bit more. But other than that, I love every song on this album. For that reason, I reached out to Mr. Scott Osment, who's also the drummer for Def Club. If you don't know about Def Club, they're amazing. Check them out. I saw them open for Converge at El Corazon a few years ago. They absolutely blistered the whole place. That was a sick show. But I reached out to Scott Osment, and like I said, he's the drummer for Glassing, and he was kind enough to answer a few questions so I could bring you guys some exclusive commentary from the band. So the first question I had for Scott was, where and when did Glassing form as a band? And he said, quote, Corey started this band a little over a year ago when he moved to Austin, Texas. He ran into Dustin at a show, and they already knew each other from previous bands and crashing at Corey's place in New Orleans. I am technically the new guy and have been in the band since 2021, where I played the Twin Dream record release show. I've been friends with these dudes for a long time, back from when Glassing would play with my other bands, end quote. And the second question I had for Scott was, what are some of your favorite bands currently, specifically heavier bands? And Scott said, Meth is my favorite heavy band. They are so brutal and off-putting. And Hires Collective, spelled H-I-R-S, Collective, might have been the most entertaining show I saw last year. Jenna and Scott are incredible performers and the sweetest people. And Author and Punisher is the loudest and most brutal doom sludge or whatever they're doing up there. I've been a fan of Author and Punisher for a long time, end quote. I also love Author and Punisher. They super sick. The instruments that guys makes are just bananas. And the third question I had for Scott was, what is the most memorable gig you've played? And he said, quote, every show has something special to it, whether it's the performers, the vibe, or the people. All that is important and the main reason live shows are necessary. The response to Def Club at Roadburn was a full circle moment for me and very special. If you guys don't know what Roadburn is, that is a festival that's held in Leipzig, Germany. They're known for having the sickest lineups ever. And that's what he's talking about when his previous band, Def Club, played there at Roadburn. That was a very special moment for him. And he said, quote, the response the Glassing got at a small bar in Quebec had us confused and in tears. Yeah, that's awesome. Whenever you can kind of show a crowd so much energy and love and they give that back to you, it's probably overwhelming to the senses. So that's really cool to hear that. And the last question I had for Scott was, do you have any advice for up and coming musicians or young people with musical ambitions? And he said, quote, keep going, get involved in the local scene, meet people, hang out, make time, and consistently come up with new musical ideas. Yeah, I think that's pretty damn good advice. Yeah, thank you so much to Scott Osment and to the band Glassing for an amazing album. I fucking love this album so much. It's really good. I came to love it even more and more going over the album while writing this review, and I just think that my view of this album expanded quite a bit in that time. So with that said, I am going to give this album a 9.5 out of 10. It is a super, super sick album. I want to give a shout out to Matt Darcy for providing some of the pictures of the Quebec show. And if you want to get in touch with him, I'll leave his Instagram on the bottom here. But yeah, that is it. An amazing album from Glassing. It's a 9.5 out of 10, and it is called From the Other Side of the Mirror. Go check out Glassing. Follow them on Instagram as well as Bandcamp and YouTube. Thank you so much for checking this out. Shout out to this band and everyone involved. And this is Ben from Gravel Throat Reviews. I appreciate your time. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.